In an ideal world, it'd be great to be able to talk about certainty today. And the one of the overriding concerns is that almost 2 years after the UK government effectively gave notice to the European Union that the UK was leaving, we don't have that certainty. Added to that, you've got a situation in the UK Parliament where there currently isn't a majority for any particular outcome at the moment. There has been the negotiations over the last 2 years in relation to a deal. At the moment, there's a sticking point with that deal, and it's not getting through UK Parliament, largely as a consequence of what's referred to as the Irish backstop. So I think sitting here towards the end of February, you've got 3 potential scenarios that might come to pass at the end of March. One is that between now and then, negotiations continue and the current impasse is broken, and there is then a deal that will be passed by the UK government, and on that basis you'd then be looking at the UK leaving the European Union on an agreed basis. If that doesn't happen, there is obviously the possibility that the 29th of March will come and the UK will leave the European Union with no deal, the so-called hard Brexit. Interestingly, within the UK Parliament at the moment, there's not currently a majority for any single deal, but I think there probably is a majority that no one wants to leave without a deal, i.e. there's no desire to have a hard Brexit from a UK Parliament perspective. And I think that's probably echoed across the European Union. The third scenario is that for whatever reason they either don't negotiate a deal in time, or by the time they do negotiate a deal, there isn't enough time to have an orderly departure on the 29th of March. There is then a prospect that Brexit will be delayed, deferred, and they will seek an extension to the Article 50 situation, and therefore in essence the can will be kicked down the road. With the uncertainty we've got, the whole scenario planning piece has been quite difficult. Until fairly recently, people have tended to assume that ultimately a deal will be negotiated and that in essence we'll work our way through this. You've now got, because we're getting close to the deadline, the potential of a so-called hard Brexit. Interestingly, different people have different perspectives on that depending on your view of the European Union. There are some who think that leaving with no deal will not be such a significant issue from an economic point of view. But at the other end, you've got people who say that will be a very significant event economically, not just for the UK, but for the broader European Union. You've therefore got a scenario, again, just back to the uncertainty, where no one is really sure what the outcome would be. And that, I think, gives rise to the misconceptions of just the uncertainty of not knowing exactly what, come the 30th of March, you hear, at one side stories of, there will be no access to be able to leave the UK, certainly not to go to the European Union. There will be food shortages, there will be shortages of drugs and so on and so forth. I think in reality, these fears are perhaps being overplayed, but we're dealing with politics, so you can't necessarily rule anything out. The key for us is to work with our clients and make sure those clients are informed as to the actions they may need to take depending on the fact we have uncertainty of outcome here. And I think the 3 main areas that we would be urging businesses, our clients, working on are, is your supply chain sorted? If you're manufacturing or distributing, have you got access to the raw materials that you will need to keep manufacturing, certainly in the early days or weeks after the 29th of March, if there is a so-called hard Brexit? Have you got labour supply? Obviously, as part of Brexit, the rules in terms of immigration are going to change, and depending on your labour force, if you're relying on labour from outside the UK, from within the European Union, are you going to be able to have sufficient labour to carry on running the business that you have? And then the most direct effect at the moment is when the UK leaves the European Union, almost certainly there'll be a different trading relationship with the European Union, either en masse or country by country. At the moment, anybody importing or exporting from the UK to European Union and back, there is effectively no sales tax, no value added tax consequences of that, and that will change. So businesses that export or import need to ensure that they've dealt with the consequences of VAT and customs duty starting to be reenacted. Again, however, the problem is that no one is quite sure what those rules are going to be, so you're trying to scenario plan, but without the certainty of knowing what the position is going to be. Over the course of the past 2 years, I think within the UK, we've tended to adopt a very British attitude of keep calm and carry on. And I think that will continue to manifest itself. Come the 30th of March, the sun is still going to come up in the morning. The UK is still going to be a significant economy, not just within Europe, but in global terms. The European Union, either as a bloc or the 27 countries, are still going to be a significant commercial trading partner for the UK. Currently, the European Union accounts for 46% of the UK's exports. I don't see that changing dramatically. There may be an initial hiatus whilst everything settles down, again depending on what ultimate deal is negotiated with the European Union. But I think when you move forward 18 months, we'll be in a state of normality, however you define normality.